Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And tonight I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Sabah Noor. I am nearly 28 years old, and I'm currently based in Naarm or Melbourne, Australia. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm currently doing this interview, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I also acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that this always was, and always will be Aboriginal land. To introduce myself, like I mentioned, my name is Sabah Noor. I am nearly 28 years old. I am from Bangladesh. So I'm a Bangladeshi woman, and I currently live in Naarm, Melbourne. I moved here when I was 18 years old. So I grew up in Bangladesh, spent 18 years in Bangladesh. All of my schooling, my primary and secondary education was in Bangladesh. And I moved here for university, for my undergrad when I was 18 years old. That was nearly 9.5 years ago. Ever since then, I completed a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at the University of Melbourne. I then taught migrants how to train for an English proficiency test for a year and a half. I then decided to do a Master of Secondary Teaching in Science, and I specialized in chemistry and biology, which were my majors in my undergrad. So I did a 2-year master's degree, and then I got a job at a cool school in the inner north where I get to teach the next generation of Australians cool science skills, and I get them to be excited about the world of science and the discoveries that are being made on a daily basis. My journey to me has been quite interesting so far, I think. Ever since I was a child, I guess I was a very curious child, and my parents and my aunts, they all laugh at me. They always said that I had a habit of tinkering with things, and I would always dig into the drawers and like look at their makeup, look at tools and anything and everything. I was just very curious, and I couldn't sit still. And so I believe that's where my passion for science. And when I was in high school, I guess, given that I was in Bangladesh and I did study in an English language institution my whole life. So I followed the British curriculum, which is the IGCSE curriculum, or the General Certificate of Education, but under the University of Cambridge. So I don't think there were a lot of opportunities to learn or focus on anything that was not science or commerce. So those were the two broad fields that I had the options of. We didn't have any cool music or psychology teachers or any other interesting sort of engineering related subjects in high school. So it was just like, oh, you either choose science and math subjects, or you choose commerce. And I was not really a commerce person. I wasn't really interested in business or anything like that. I was more interested in how the world works and how generators work and how rockets are being sent into space, how the planets stay in orbit, how ecosystems interact on this like amazing planet. So I chose science. So I studied physics, chemistry, biology, and maths. And my parents always, particularly my mom, I would have to say that she was my inspiration in pursuing everything that I've wanted to pursue. She studied physics herself, so she was also a lady in science, but she gave up her studies to raise her children, which I'm so grateful for. And she always, from ever since I was a very young girl, she always inspired me to be independent. And that's what she kept telling me. She's like, you have to stand on your own 2 feet. You have to be independent. I want you to chase all the passions that you want. I want you to study whatever you want. I want you to be able to get the jobs that you want. And I want you to live your life on your own terms and not have to answer to anybody. And I will support you every step of the way. And you know what, she has. Even to this day, she's my biggest cheerleader. I could tell her um, I could maybe tell her that I want to do something that she doesn't fully approve of, and yet she trusts me enough to know that I will make the right decision and she will still support me. And so she was my biggest inspiration. Unfortunately for her, physics was not my forte as much as she also wanted her daughter to study physics. And she wanted me to be a pilot, like an airline pilot, but I did not want to be an airline pilot because the pressure of having so many people's lives in my hands was overwhelming for me. So I studied biochemistry and molecular biology because I was interested in biology and chemistry, and they were my forte. And like the naive little 18-year-old girl, I didn't really think too much about where it would lead me. When I finished my undergrad, which was quite challenging, as an 18-year-old girl who moved here from a very different culture, very different context, very different upbringing, who moved here and had to do everything by herself, I didn't really handle my undergrad very well. I was always struggling to kind of balance my academic life and my personal life and trying to figure out how to adult, I guess. So that affected my academic results and my confidence a lot. And I graduated with I passed, I had a decent average, but um, having graduated from a prestigious university like Melbourne University, I was constantly told that my grades would not allow me to find a master's supervisor or get jobs because you need a minimum of a master's degree in science to get any job, which really which really well sucked, and it affected my confidence even more, and I had no idea what I was doing at that point or what I was going to do. I spent so many months thinking that I wasted my parents' money, who worked so hard to pay for my degree and my life here, to help me be successful. And for the longest time, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I had to take an English proficiency test to be able to stay here. And I scored 100%. And then I realized that that was an avenue for me to start teaching, which is something that I enjoyed. So when I was a child, I would always help my friends learn, and they would often tell me that I would be a good mother and or be a very good teacher. And I think there was a part of me that always thought, and this just probably stems from like a lot of internalized classist beliefs that, oh yeah, of course, teaching is a noble profession, but it's not something that people choose to do if they have other options, and all of these other limiting, disrespectful beliefs and untrue beliefs. So I would just laugh it off, but there was always a little part of me that wanted to be a teacher. And you know what? That is what I'm doing right now. So when I started teaching English, I fell in love with it, and I realized that I actually quite enjoyed the profession. But unfortunately, there were no permanent residency prospects in Australia as an English teacher, and professional jobs as well required experience in fields. And I did do the whole apply to hundreds of jobs and like not hear back from anyone. I did the whole thing, but then I realized that I had to be more strategic. So fortunately, I was working for a migration firm at that point, and so they gave me advice. They said that I'd have to do social work or teaching at that point to be able to secure a permanent residency. And I wanted to do something that would help me get a permanent residency, but at the same time, something that would align with my interests as well. So because I was already teaching and I enjoyed studying science in high school, I really did. And I already had a science background and a science degree. So I decided to do a Master of Secondary Teaching because that was my favorite point of study in my life. It's what I enjoyed the most. And I also they liked the fact that teenagers are at a stage in their life and where they, of course, they have their challenges and, they're still developing. They've got, they push boundaries at that age. However, I also think it's such a beautiful age where you are not quite an adult, but you are a young adult, and you can, like, I still had the capacity to mold their minds and still have conversations with them like I would with an adult, in a professional capacity, of course. And just to be able to see that eureka moment when I explain something to them and they understand it, I thought that would be quite rewarding. So I enrolled in a Master of Secondary Teaching degree, and I absolutely aced it, loved it. I made some amazing friends, and I was a complete 180 from my undergrad. And I enjoyed my placements, I enjoyed teaching, and I realized that there is such and I, through research and through my own experience, I realized that there's this fear, um, or like depth of a lack of understanding of science in the general Australian populace, I would say. And this is not, I'm not trying to demean anyone, and I'm not trying to be patronizing by any means. It's just, it's even reflected in comments that I've gotten. For example, if I've told them, oh yeah, I'm studying science at Melbourne Uni, it's inevitably just, oh, like people inevitably say, oh, you must be so smart. And it used to baffle me, because to me, it just seemed like something that's so normal. And even when I spoke to my students, they would say things like, oh my God, Miss, I don't really understand science, or science is really hard. I don't really understand chemistry, or biology. And it baffled me. But then it also made me realize that not everyone thinks the way that I do. Not everyone has had access to the same resources that I have. Not everyone had such specialized science education like I did. So I took it upon myself to impart the knowledge and to make science, to try to make science more accessible to secondary school students. And so through my degree, I learned the pedagogy, the science of learning, how students learn. And ever since I started teaching, it's nearly the end of my third year now, I have made it my mission to increase students' literacy in science, to increase student interest and agency over their learning, to help students understand scientific concepts at a macro and a micro level, and also a microscopic level. And I've done this through analogies, through practicals, through videos, some hands-on modeling, and showing them inspirational women in science. And I've also become quite a strong advocate for women in STEM. When I did my master's, one of the subjects that in one of my studies, I analyzed the STEM policy in Australia, and then I analyzed the policy against existing research at that point, and the findings were absolutely flabbergasting, and it made me so upset. Women in STEM face barriers from their very early childhood and all the way through to their professional life. They face sexism, they face career barriers, they don't get promoted, they don't get the opportunities that their male counterparts do, and that's been documented. And every step of the way. And I know that things are changing, but I want to be part of that change. And I'd like to believe that through my profession, and through my profession that doesn't really feel like a profession. It feels more like a calling, and it feels like I'm doing, I guess, community service in a way, more than a job that just pays my bills. That I'm being part of that change. Like, I make it so obvious to my students, or I try to let them know that, look, I'm a woman in science. Like, I'm a female teacher who's teaching you physics, chemistry, and biology. And so you can do it too. It's little things like female students in my classroom sitting at the back, kind of blending in the background, not wanting to participate, even though they get the best grades, even though they're on task most of the time. And I try to ensure that I give them as much, if not more, time and patience and attention. And I really try to speak to them and find out their views on science. And in the near future, I do want to kind of transition into the STEM education or the edtech space, because I believe that's where the future is heading. I do acknowledge the work that I do, and I do know how valuable it is. However, I do feel like my passion is moving more towards the edtech space. I still want to be in education or in STEM education. I guess I just want to make an impact on a bigger scale. And I've learned so much in my current profession and through my experiences and from my colleagues and from the broader community and from engaging with families. I worked at Melbourne Uni for a while when I was doing my master's, and I used to liaise with the alumni. to get them to request them or to negotiate with them to donate to various university initiatives. And so I've learned so much. I'm also interested in public health. So there's a lot that I'm interested in, and that is related to STEM. And I cannot wait to see what the future has in store for me. So thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to share my story. I hope that it helps someone, even one person, get to pursue STEM and get to where they want to go. So thank you.
Well, your story is so
Mm,
inspiring. Listening to a young
mm.
woman who saw an opportunity, you saw the barrier that was there, wanted to teach English, and you decided to pivot and go in a different direction. That was really creative of you to find a way to stay and do what you love to do and be a teacher. So, along your journey, who have been your mentors? Who have been the people who have guided you and helped you get to where you are?
I would say that it was definitely my mother was my biggest cheerleader. My dad kind of cheered for me from the sidelines. I also, my university tutors, Dr. Leon Helfenbaum in particular, he helped me so much in my undergrad, and I had some fun lectures like Terry Mulhern. Um, and then currently, I've also been in touch with Dr. Morley Muse. She's been an absolutely incredible person. I also have best friends who live in Brisbane. They have helped me so much in like, Brisbane and Canberra. They've provided me the support that I need. My friend in Canberra is in academia. She's an absolute superstar. She's so successful, but she's in political science. However, she's definitely inspired me to look for certain opportunities. She's always advocated for me. And my ex supervisor Lorena, she used to be a learning specialist at my school and the head of science. Currently, she's a master teacher in residence at the Victorian Institute of Teaching and Leadership. So she's definitely mentored me and she's supported me and she's always advocated for me in my current job. I was so sad when she left. And my current supervisors at work are also very lovely and they always support me, help me develop professionally and personally. And I'm just so grateful for these people in my life.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that you belong to several organizations that are focused on women in STEM, STEM Sisters being one of them. What
Mm-hmm.
has been the advantage of joining STEM Sisters, and what have you found in rubbing shoulders with the women in this organization?
Um, I would say that it's honestly been, and I do not use this word lightly, it has been life-changing for me in many ways because I found STEM Sisters from browsing LinkedIn. I didn't know anyone, no one told me about it. And when I went into I signed up to go to one of their free events in the Docklands and I just went there not knowing what to expect. I just wanted to see what was out there. And when I went in there, and when I read through the information that they gave me, and also just listening to the panelists who were so vulnerable, who were so successful, who were so vulnerable in speaking about their experiences and the barriers that they had to face in STEM, there was not a dry eye in the room when they shared their stories. I am not joking. And then I remember, and I asked a question. So when the panelists allowed the opportunity to ask questions, I asked them how I can inspire these women in STEM to the girls that I'm teaching to pursue STEM because when I graduated, like I said, I did not know what opportunities were available for me. I was told that if you don't have a master's degree in science, if you don't have good grades, your life is over. And I genuinely believed that. However, when I spoke to Dr. Molly, she answered my question and she said, you know what, you're an education for you. And then she held me back later and she said, look, there's this organization. They are looking for someone to spearhead the STEM education program. And I can vouch for you. Send me your resume and your cover letter, and I can try and see what I can do. And I remember still in that moment telling her, hey, but do you think I have enough experience? Do you think I have the skills and the qualifications? And she held my shoulder and she said, Sabah, you're stuck in a bubble. And what are you passionate about? And I said, well, I'm passionate about women in STEM. And she said, well, then there's a whole world out there. There's so many opportunities. You have to get out of your bubble. And that's the only way that you will find these opportunities and be able to reach for them and grab them. And
Mm.
it was a eureka moment for me because there is so much out there that I did not know. And she's right, I was, and I guess I still am stuck in a bubble. However, that kind of allowed me to pivot and look for other opportunities that are out there, and reach out to other people on LinkedIn. And she's been guiding me a little bit, and she told me, hey, message this person, they might be a good contact for you, or message that person. And I'm going to a STEM careers fair next month, and actually next week, to meet some recruiters and see what's out there. And the truth is, even if I don't get a job right now, I've still started a journey. And I think that's what's most important, because
Yes.
life is not like a movie. You can't just, you can't just do one thing and then expect that you'll get an amazing opportunity right from there. It is
No.
possible, however, it doesn't always happen. So I'm just happy that that STEM Sisters event started me on this journey, in looking for future trajectories and career paths, beyond my current profession, where I can make an even bigger impact on a bigger scale. And that would be a
Oh,
huge honor.
wow. I love it.
Mm,
Now, let's talk a little bit
thank you.
about the work that you're doing, the STEM club that you've started at the school.
Mhm.
What does that entail? How do you recruit the young people who come and join you?
So with the STEM club at the school where I work, I'm not completely affiliated with them this year, just because I have a different, like, I have a very overwhelming teaching load. So I decided to focus on that. However, I worked with the principal last year, and I helped him with admin. I helped him set it up. So it was a very student-driven initiative. So the students who were super into STEM, we advertised it during our clubs week, and I also advertised it in my classes. I asked my colleagues to advertise it in their classes so that they could join, so the students could join the STEM club if they wanted to, and the student projects, and we source the materials for those projects within our budget, of course. And and we guided them through using, the tools and the machinery that they needed to use, and just gave them advice on how to tinker with things. So throughout the year, the students were part of two projects. The first project that they made was they connected oh, it was so funny. They made like a boxing glove to a little switchboard, and so essentially, and that connected to a light, and then so every time they punched the boxing glove, it would make the light like light up. So they were actually converting the kinetic energy of the movement of the glove into like light energy. And so that was really cool to see. And the second project that they worked on was a Rube Goldberg machine. So where it's, for those who don't know, it's a machine where you would have seen them in cartoons and movies, where if you maybe push a ball or do one thing and then it sets off like a chain reaction, and then at the end, like it sometimes involves dominoes falling, and then at the end it would involve something completely different, like falling into the ground or falling into a bowl of water. And so they made a Rube Goldberg machine, and I made a slow-mo video. We advertised it on the school newsletter and the school like yearly magazine. And I also took pictures and showed my students and showed them, hey, this is what we're doing in STEM Club. Maybe you should join. And one of my colleagues who runs the STEM Club, who is running the STEM Club this year and wasn't a part of it last year, she was running a robotics club on the side. So she teaches programming at the school, and she's also currently running the STEM club. They've joined the STEM club with the robotics club, so they're all under one umbrella. And so she's running a robotics competition. So it's called the VEX robotics competition, and I think she has 8 students under her wing right now, and they're going to compete nationally. So they're going to make a robot, and they're going to audition, and the students are going to go there, and they're going to, I guess, compete against other students from other schools across the country.
How
Yeah.
exciting is that? That is just
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
Now, you have forged opportunities for yourself by volunteering for various organizations. Even when you were in Bangladesh, you would
Hmm.
volunteer. If there was
Hmm.
somebody who's listening to us right now, is thinking about going into STEM, why was volunteering so important and influential to get you to where you are? What did you learn?
So I think volunteering, I would say the biggest thing that I learned from volunteering was just getting the confidence to make decisions. I was quite social when I grew up, and so I was always part of like lots of organizations and communities. And I decided to volunteer because I thought it would look well, because I enjoyed it, but also because I thought it would look good on my resume in the future. I volunteered for lots of different organizations. The organizations that cleaned up streets, organizations that provided education to the underprivileged youth, provided winter clothing to underprivileged youth. We went to orphanages where we spent a day with the orphans and just had like allowed them to have a day of fun, and just like, we did face painting and lots of different games, played lots of different games. I think it helped me realize, I guess, the privilege that I had to genuinely make an impact, and or develop the confidence to talk to people and negotiate things. And also, there was an organization that I worked with. I got a scholarship from Harvard to work for that organization, to train with the organization. It was called the Bangladesh Youth Leadership Center. And we had to do a 3-month project in an underdeveloped area, and we picked sanitation, and we had to fundraise for that project. So I went to my one of my dad's friends and with my workmates, and we had to pitch the idea of why it would be a successful project and why they needed to sponsor it, and they agreed to sponsor the project. So we raised quite a significant amount of money to work for the project, and it was actually quite successful in the interim. Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to go back and look at any long-term impacts of the project. However, we achieved our short-term goals, and so it gave me the confidence to write compelling letters as well, and advocate for myself, and advocate for people who needed to be advocated for. So volunteering was definitely a very crucial step, and it also allowed me to secure employment in the future as well, because employers saw that I volunteered for all these causes, and they asked me, and it allowed me to allowed them to get a glimpse into professional capacity of, I guess, advocating for myself and speaking professionally and writing professionally. So lots of different skills.
You get those references, don't you? Because that's an important thing too, to push
Absolutely,
your career
yes.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Now, if I could take you into the future, and you are now 90 years old, and you could have a conversation with the future you, this wise woman who's leading you to the goal, the ultimate goal that you want to create for your life. If you could have a conversation with your future you, based on how you're living your life and the dreams that you have right now, what would you say to her if you could speak to her at the age of 90?
I would say that you have lived a very full life, and you have pursued opportunities, and even if you didn't get them, and there's never a right or a wrong decision. There was a decision, and that led you on a path, and you went there. That was it. And I have no regrets, is what I would really want my 90-year-old self to say at that point. Because every single choice, every single decision that I made led me along a certain pathway. And really, that's all I would have to say.
I love it. I like to ask that question because a lot of women don't realize that that wise woman is already in you. She's already guiding you. That's why you're making these decisions. That's why you're forging the way. And you just have to keep listening to that voice, those promptings that you get that make you move and take action. So let's finish off now with 3 nuggets of wisdom that you can share to some young person who's listening, especially a young woman of color who's trying to break into the STEM world and is struggling. What 3 nuggets of wisdom?
3 nuggets of wisdom. Number 1, the best way for you to move forward in this world or to get opportunities in this world is through other women. That's what one of my mentors told me, and I firmly believe that. It would just be a lot easier for you to move that way. I'm not saying that it's the only way, but it is definitely a way. Number 2, reach out to people, talk to people. Like, no one's going to be like, no one's going to shut you down completely or be rude to you. You don't know what opportunities are going to arise from just talking to people. So reach out to people, talk to people within your industry. Number 3, you are so much smarter and capable and talented and creative than you think you are. The world has made you feel like you're not, and that's simply not true. So go for every single opportunity. Even if you don't get it, go for it, keep trying, and never give up, unless that's what's true to you. These are the things that I will have to say.
Thank you so much for coming online today and sharing your story with us. It's really inspiring to see a young woman who's out there forging a way for herself, forging a way for others as well through your teaching. I wish you the best of luck in everything you're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next summit that we're going to be having here in Melbourne. We're looking for inspiring young people to come and speak and share their ideas in a conference called the Diversity Connector. So I'll be sharing more information with you about that as well.
Oh, amazing.
And yeah, thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is connecting people who are different with the corporate world, sharing our experiences, our trials and tribulations, and our victories. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview another interesting person. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And bye for now. Thanks again for the interview.
Thank you. Bye, Gertrude. Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye for now, everybody. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open,